Hello, Luminary. Mars retrograde in Leo and Cancer is here and is asking, how will you reinvent yourself with more self love, loving kindness, and heart centeredness? Mars, when retrograde, wants you to re energize, reinvigorate, and re identify so you can reinvent yourself. Reinvent yourself the way you feel, the way you show up, the way you leave a lasting impression on your people. Let's explore how we get to utilize this Mars medicine so you can realize your highest self. If you're a subscriber, thank you for joining me again. And if you're new here, welcome to Star Powered. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your host, a multiracial, multifaceted, professional musician turned web designer turned astrologer. Astrology helped me overcome an identity crisis by revealing my star powered strengths. Now I use these strengths to guide healers, entrepreneurs, and changemakers like you to make your mark with ease and impact using astrology. All right, friends, I am on an episode roll here. We had so much going on in the sky with that Mercury retrograde, asking us to reroute our journey. Then our new moon giving us the time to create a new, fresh, clear intention. And now our Mars retrograde that starts on December 6th and goes all the way to February 23rd. And it's this long, luxurious 6 weeks where Mars goes into that medicine mode so that we can not just rethink, redo, that's more Mercury's in retrograde medicine, but so that we can reinvent ourselves. Now, it's really important that we get this Mars energy because Mars, of course, is the planetary process that allows us to energize, motivate, have physical vitality and energy to advocate and stand up for what's right. We need Mars energy. But sometimes it can get stuck in the shadows with fear and anxiety and nervousness and not knowing how we're going to spend our energy. So I really want to dive in today to look at how we can all use this Mars retrograde to reinvent ourselves. In today's episode, I want to talk about exactly what is this Mars retrograde and 6 ways you can utilize this Mars retrograde that is going back from Leo and into Cancer. We're going to look at the astrology of this Mars retrograde over this, the 6 week retrograde period, but really a much longer cycle with the shadow zones on each side. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to personalize your Mars retrograde medicine, looking at, of course, your house, the house that Mars will be transiting, as well as if you have any natal planets. So, a lot of you have been asking because it's usually around this time of year, around Black Friday, before the holiday seasons, where I start promoting my year ahead offers. And guess what? I haven't really sent out any emails because I don't have really any year ahead offers this year, but I do have a few ways that you can work with me. So I want you to mark this down. I'll also have it in the show notes. If you want to work with me for free, I'm offering a free masterclass on December 17th. It's a Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, and I will be looking at 2025 in the stars. A free masterclass. You can come join me. You can, pay what you like if you want to offer me a little tip or anything like that. But you don't have to. Just come and join us live. We'll be looking at all the themes that are coming up in 2025. Whew, I'm really looking forward to it. And even a little peek into 2026, because that's where my heart and mind are right now. Then a paid class, if you want to work with me for a vision planning, not like planning your goals, but really visioning, looking at the way that Uranus, the planet of breakthrough, Saturn, the planet of mastery, and Jupiter, the planet of expansion, how they will be impacting your chart in 2025. So if you want to join me for Vision Star Lab 2025, that is on January 23rd, a Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Head on over to my website, starpowered.com, for more information on how to sign up for the free masterclass, as well as signing up for Vision Star Lab. Now, going back to, I don't have any offers for next year. You might have known that I generally open the doors for Star Powered Circle, which is my amazing membership and community, starting on January 1st. However, this year I have two things that I needed to shift. So I'm not actually opening Star Powered Circle. First of all, I need space in the winter to take a mini sabbatical to write my book. My manuscript is due in March, and I haven't really fully started. I have like notes and I have like a couple of things here and there. I'm really set up, but I need the space to write. And I haven't given myself that space to write. So I'm doing that in January. And so I'm giving myself a mini sabbatical. So I can't do Star Powered Circle. So, one, Star Powered Circle, I'm not opening it again until the Aries ingress. Because what's always felt also really weird for me is starting off the new year on January 1st, because January 1st for me is not really a new beginning. It's still a closing up and a going in and planning and like making plans for a new year and starting things always felt really weird for me with following the Gregorian calendar. So I want to this year open up Star Powered Circle with the Aries ingress. So starting with the astrological new year. It's so beautiful in the new year that we have all of these different beginnings. We have the Gregorian January 1st. We have the Asian Lunar New Year that happens with the Aquarius new moon. And all of those I feel like are really warm ups until we get to that Aries ingress that happens in late March. So if you want to get on the wait list for Star Powered Circle 3.0, this will be our third year of Star Powered Circle, and join this wonderful global community of leaders that love using astrology, then head on over to starpowered.com/circle and get on that wait list. If you are a current Circle member, do not despair. There is going to be a promotion just for you, Circle Bridge, that will bridge us through the gap so that we can still continue being in community together. So 3 ways to work with me upcoming. If you want to find out anything about my free masterclass, 2025 in the Stars, my paid Vision Star Lab, or get on the wait list for Circle that's opening up with the Aries ingress, not opening up at the beginning of this year, head on over to my website, starpowered.com. Okay, let's dive in to this episode. What the heck is a Mars retrograde? Every 2 years or so, we get to have a Mars retrograde. We get a Mars retrograde about every 2 years or so. Our last Mars retrograde happened in October of 2022 and went through the sign of Gemini. This time, we have our Mars retrograde happening on Mars shifts onto reverse on December 6th and goes in reverse all the way to February 23rd. Now, just like a Mercury retrograde, we have the shadow zone. We have the zone that Mars will backtrack, will go forward and back and forward again, highlighting 3 times. And so as Mars goes forward, it entered the shadow zone on October 4th when it passed that Cancer of 17-degree mark. Now, from October 4th until now, this first shadow zone really foreshadows the things that we get to work on when we have this Mars retrograde. And then when Mars goes in retrograde, retracing, backtracking from December 6th all the way to February 23rd, this is where things might get to breakdown, where we get to re-energize, where we get to re-examine, where we get to do all of that recalibration, but in the Mars style. And then Mars will then shift gears on February 23rd and go direct again, retracing those steps and not leaving the shadow zone until May 2nd of 2025. And so really the whole Mars medicine cycle really takes us from October through May. October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Whew, that's about 8 months. That's a long time. But you know what? We are grateful that we get all of this time with Mars going through Cancer to hold space and to be able to practice self care and acceptance, as well as in Leo, so that we can prioritize our fun, our joy, and our playfulness. So, really, I'm calling this Mars retrograde cycle reinventing yourself. Because when I think about this Mars retrograde, reinventing yourself with loving kindness and prioritizing yourself, we can't put a price or money on self-care or joy. And so oftentimes these things get left on the very back burner. Oh, I'll take care of that when I have time, or after I finish all my work, I'll take care of all of these things. However, when we are just constantly not taking care of ourselves and not having fun, not only do we go through burnout, but for me, I have been really suffering through some anxiety and depression because I've just been go, 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 go. I do this to myself. So that's why I'm really grateful when we have these retrogrades, because this is our opportunities to do things differently, to prioritize things that maybe we haven't prioritized before. And I say prioritize because Mars is the energy again of energy. Is the energy of energy. Mars's process is to energize, to motivate, to advocate, to do what's right. Of course, we always know that Mars is that fight energy and that warrior energy, but more than like provoking, it's really defending and standing up for what's right and fighting for what is important to you. And to be able to fight means that we need to have vitality. We need to have that physical, embodied energy. And so when Mars is going in retrograde, we get to look at, well, maybe we don't have energy. Where have we been wasting our energy or having energy leaks? Maybe we're no longer motivated. Maybe like what motivated us like last year doesn't motivate us this year. Maybe Mars is like, well, fighting for what's right. Maybe I haven't even been fighting for myself. Maybe I've been voting against myself. Maybe I've been not prioritizing the right things. I've been not advocating for myself. And so for all of us, right, we probably are experiencing one, if not all of those things. And this is our time so that we get to redo, we get to reinvigorate, reactivate, reaffirm, re-identify, and re-alize. So when I think about this theme, reinvent yourself, this Mars retrograde is your opportunity to reinvent yourself by re-energizing the parts of your deepest needs, acceptance, validation. That's all of that Cancer, that moon. So your emotional needs. Yes, you do need things to regulate yourself, to feel important, to nourish yourself, and then reinvigorate your presence. That's Leo. And maybe your presence has gone dormant or sideways. I know for me, it's really gone dormant or sideways. And so when we get to reinvent ourselves, this is really your opportunity for a self-exploration process that allows you to refresh your life, to refuel, to re-energize. With a Mars retrograde like this, you can look at your self-care habits, Cancer, and your lifestyle habits, Leo, to realign with your thoughts, because we got Mercury in retrograde, and like Mercury is going to have a lot of aspects with this Mars. Your values, because I know your values have shifted as well, meaning like what's important to you at this time, what creates worth, all of those things, because Venus is going to be working in there. Devotion, so your spiritual action, that's Neptune. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And your past challenges, Chiron, and of course Pluto, right? So we got like Mercury, Venus, Neptune, Chiron, Pluto, all of these planets are having aspects with Mars during this cycle. So Mars will be busy co-creating with these planetary processes over the totality of this retrograde cycle, shadows and all. Now, this Mars cycle is connecting the dots between Leo back to Cancer. As I'm recording this on Monday, December 2nd, Mars has basically come to a standstill at that Leo 6 degrees mark before it shifts into reverse. And so, if you hear this tomorrow on December 3rd, all the way to like December 6th, give yourself some extra time because Mars doesn't like to stop. Mars and Mercury are very energetic planets. They love to keep going. They like to make things to go fast. But when they are in retrograde, and especially at those stationing points before they shift gears, trying to get an energetic toddler to sit still, like you just don't know what's going to happen. It's like this kinetic energy is just like bubbling forth. And so give yourself some space. You feel like a nap. You feel like you just need to, empty out your calendar for a little bit. It's okay. And so as we think about this Mars cycle bringing us back from Leo to Cancer, Leo is about self-love. Cancer is about self-care. Leo is about passionate. Cancer is about tenderness. Leo is about being adamant and knowing creatively what you want. And Cancer is about protection. Leo is about creativity. Cancer is about compassion. So we get to play with all of these energies and pre-prioritize. That's the Mars, reprioritize, because our priorities have shifted. And so imagine how do you want to realign and reinvent yourself with more self-love, loving kindness, and heart-centeredness? Of course, you're going to be feeling this very personally because Mars, Mercury, Venus, these are all of our personal planets. And when they go retrograde, we feel them intimately in our lives and in our work. And so this is a wonderful time for you to work on your energy, your anxiety, your frustrations, your fears. Find out where you're using too much energy or maybe where you need to reallocate your fuel. Re-examine what brings you ease versus frustration. Now, if you, I had a conversation with my community earlier for our new moon ceremony. We really brought up this idea about why do we make things so hard for ourselves? And we talked about this idea of like how our ego wants to like gaslight us into thinking if it's easy, well, then it's not worth it. When in fact, if it's easy, that means it's for us. And so please notice what comes easily for you. Notice what makes you alive. Notice what takes the least amount of effort. Maybe that's what you're meant to be doing. And of course, when you're looking at this Mars retrograde, I want you to tune in to the house that contains Cancer of 17 degrees to Leo of 6 degrees. You might have two houses in there, but look at your natal chart, look at that area of your chart and tune into that area of your life, that area of your business that is represented by that house that wants to be re-energized. I want to go through 6 ways that you can utilize this Mars retrograde in your life and your business. Number 1, reinvigorate loving kindness towards self and others. I've recently been listening to this book by David Bedrick called The Unshaming Way. And he takes apart all the ways that we hold our inner self-critic, how we internalize shame, and how this prevents us from doing the beautiful things that we are meant to be doing. And what it comes down to is that so often we are so hard on ourselves. The inner critic goes unwitnessed. The pain of our shame goes unwitnessed. And how can we reinvigorate ourselves with loving kindness towards ourselves? How much capacity and energy could we build so that we have now more patience, more room to give loving kindness towards others? So, number 1, reinvigorate loving kindness towards yourself and others. The second thing that I would like to invite you to do is to reactivate what brings you joy. As I was mentioning earlier, it's super easy to put play and fun at the bottom of the list. There's dishes to do, there's garbage to be taken out, there's emails to write, there's always something. But this is your chance to not only reactivate what brings you joy by rediscovering, maybe if you don't know what play is, like to experiment and try a lot of different things, but also to reprioritize it, to really put that thing first. What would change in your life if you did the fun thing first before you did all of the work? Why is it that our Western culture says that you have to work first? I was thinking about there's a beautiful Instagram creator called Adam Keave, and he talks a lot about Hawaiian culture and like Hawaiian diaspora. But one of the things that he was mentioning earlier was that back when Hawaii was discovered, Native Hawaiians were already there, but the colonizers came to Hawaii and they thought that the Hawaiians were so lazy because they were playing at like noon and they were taking off the rest of the day. Well, they were prioritizing, they made their life full of play and recreation and health and wellness and having fun in the ocean and the sun. It's not that they weren't working, but they were able to not only be so effective and efficient, but they only had to work from sunrise to like 9 a.m. and their entire workday was done. What would our lives look like if we worked just 3 hours and spent the rest of the day playing? What I know it's possible. What would your life look like if you could reactivate and reprioritize what brings you joy? Number 3, reaffirm sensitivity as courage. Whew. This kind of plays in a little bit to the reinvigorate your loving kindness, but to be kind to yourself, to be kind to others, especially in your deepest intimate relationships like your partners or your children. Sharing your vulnerability is courage. And when you can really truly express what's on your mind, how you're feeling, even if you're feeling not so good, and being courageous, how much more energy would you have? Okay. Reaffirm sensitivity as courage. Your tears are power, they're not weakness. The number 4 thing I'd like you to do to reinvent yourself this Mars retrograde is to re-identify your self-love because of your past, not as your past. So what I mean is that with Chiron aspecting this Mars retrograde, Chiron shows us that our wounds are our gifts, shows us that our past challenges, even what we can't heal in ourselves, we can heal in others. And so how can we identify as part of our past, but not have our past identify us? What I mean by that, even more specifically, I realized that was totally vague. It's like if you've survived some kind of or experienced some kind of trauma, right? You don't want your trauma to define you. However, what you've learned and what you've gained from your trauma is such a gift. So I want you to find that beautiful balance of re-identifying and loving yourself because of the triumphs and overcoming your past challenges, not as identifying by experiencing the traumas of your past. So re-identify your self-love because of your past, love what you've gone through, but yet you don't have to identify as that victim. Number 5, the 5th thing that I'd like you to do this Mars retrograde is to re-alize energy wasted, not accepting yourself. Whew. Let me read that again. I want you to realize the energy wasted, not accepting yourself. So Cancer is a lot about acceptance. One of the things that when I'm working with my clients in their astrobrand readings or just any guidance in general is we're looking at our strengths and our challenges and we're reframing them and we are accepting them. We're not trying to like conform ourselves into different boxes and we're not trying to pretend to be something else, because when we conform, when we pretend to be other things, this is such an energy suck. Imagine all of that energy you're using to put up, false narratives, to hide behind fake masks. What if you're just yourself and loved and accepted yourself and stood up with pride, exactly like yourself? What energy would you have, because you're not wasting it trying to hide or conform or pretend to be something else? So realize and accept yourself and stop wasting that energy. Lastly, the next thing that I want you to do this Mars retrograde, and we got 6 weeks, we got really 8 months, is I want you to regulate your anxiety with self-care. Cancer says to nourish yourself. If you need ideas on how to self-regulate or to get yourself out of dysregulation, feed your moon. Know what your moon needs. Your moon sign is not luxuries, it's not desires, it's not wants, it is needs. When you can understand the needs of your moon and and nourish your moon with its needs, guess what? You're going to feel a lot better. Imagine that. All right, friends. So you just had your 6 things to do this Mars retrograde. So let's talk a little bit about the astrology of this Mars retrograde. Okay. I'm sharing with you a little bit of insider knowledge. This is a worksheet from my masterclass that I did in Star Powered Circle, where we were talking about this Mars retrograde. Now you can see, so Mars will be backtracking from Leo of 6 degrees, back to Cancer of 17 degrees, and back again. So you can see this loop-de-loop going forward, backtrack, and then going forward again. So we get 3 passes in this one segment of your chart. And so this particular Mars retrograde is going to be 79 days. It's going to span 23 degrees. So it's plenty of time to shift your energy. Mars will spend about 6 months in Cancer, about 5 months in Leo total. And it coincides, if you listen to the last episode about rerouting your journey with the Mercury retrograde, it coincides for 10 days with Mercury retrograde. So we have 10 days with 2 planets in retrograde, 2 personal planets in retrograde. Woo. So lots of realignment going on, lots of recalibration here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Mars will be aspecting Mercury. It'll aspects with Mercury a lot. So all these dates throughout this whole process. And with Mercury, we are realigning our thoughts and our actions. I know this happens a lot where we think we want to do something, but we can't find the action to really support what we want to do. And so this is our time to get things much more aligned and attuned. Of course, I mentioned our values earlier. Well, Mars will be aspecting Venus 3 times during this retrograde cycle, where Mars and Venus are asking you to reconnect your values and your actions. And so a lot of my clients most recently have been saying, well, I want to do all of these different things. How do I choose just one? Well, one is to choose the lowest hanging fruit, to know that you are worth it, that things can be easy and still valuable. That's one. But also look at your values. How have your values shifted? And are you taking action based on your values? So if you value self-care and health and wellness, well, guess what? You better prioritize your exercise and eating healthy and like doing the things that you and getting a lot of rest. If you need to prioritize making money right now, well, what actions can you take that are going to be the most profitable? Is your website clear? Is it easy to make a purchase from you, or you have to like dig through several links to find out the price of something? Okay, so knowing what your values are in the here and now and using your values to decide how you will take action is going to relieve you of a lot of stress, and like stress equals energy drain. Okay. Now with Chiron Chiron, again, has been playing such a big part in 2024, ever since February, the North Node, then we have the eclipse in April, yada, yada, yada. Chiron will be squaring Mars a total of 2 times during this retrograde cycle. And so Mars squaring Chiron, of course, Chiron, your wounds to wisdom, what you can't heal in yourself, you can heal in others. I really want you to recognize and be aware of how your wounds, be aware of your wounds, your triggers, and your hurts, and see how you might be gaslighting yourself or shooting yourself in the foot, so to say, by self-sabotage. Because you're being triggered. And instead of like finding a new route or doing things differently, you keep on repeating that same habit. So harness that Chiron, really know that in your Chiron is so much of your strengths, so much of your purpose. Now, Neptune will be trining Mars, and I love Neptune Mars aspects because to me, when Mars and Neptune come together, this to me means devotion. I've talked about devotion before with Mars and Neptune. If Neptune is the spiritual guidance and unity and like this higher way of being, and Mars is about taking action, well, together it's about devotion. Taking action based on spiritual practice. Just like yoginis might do yoga as a devotion of harnessing and unifying their body in a spiritual practice. For me, playing the clarinet and practicing is, I like to gift my playing and my music to people, to spirit. If you can add this devotional aspect, add this like calling or dedication or devotion to something higher than you, then this is going to make it so easy to turn all of like even mundane tasks into a ritual. And then, of course, the thing that most astrologers have been talking about with this Mars retrograde is the play with Pluto. Mars has been opposite and has been opposite from Pluto since all the way from November 3rd and all the way to January 2nd. So this is a giant, giant aspect where, you know, the two power players in the zodiac, Mars and Pluto, both who love to just like do things, really asks, how can you choose empowerment instead of power over? Okay, so a big part of this Mars retrograde will be that Mars, traditionally the god of war, faces off with Pluto, traditionally the god of the underworld. This can create a tense energy for all of us here on planet Earth. And so what can we do? Well, individually, you must remain vigilant to protect your inner peace, to protect inner love, to create a sense of compassion for everyone and everything created on this planet. To remember that we are all earthlings, worthy of love and compassion and peace. And so, as you're thinking about this Mars opposite Pluto, notice how fear maybe has kept you from your power, or how fear maybe even makes you dominate and control others. What's at the root of this fear? Are your fears real or perceived? How are your fears controlling you and your actions, or even taking away power from others? And how can you take your power back from your fears? What has power over you? How can you take your power back? And be honest. Are you exerting your powers over others? And why? And how can you share power instead of dominate others? Real, honest, raw questions. And so, if you're able to take this time and explore how you want to reinvent yourself by prioritizing your joy, by devoting your actions according to your values, by reinvigorating your self-worth through self-compassion and self-care, how will you reinvent yourself? What impression are you going to leave on others? How will you feel about yourself through this reinvention? I think it's absolutely wonderful. And on a pragmatic note, this is a wonderful time to re-examine your brand. So the way that you identify, your brand positioning, your style, your voice, all of these things have shifted. And so you can change too. So take a look at your brand and notice the parts that don't feel like you anymore, and make a list of the things that you want to change. Do the self-exploration of what you want to change in your brand, your positioning of like what your gifts are and who you're here to serve and how you're meant to lead, and your brand voice, how you're here to share what you're here to do. All of these things are up for examination here and now, because as we look into 2025 and 2026, nothing will be recognizable like it is today. We are going into this beautiful Aries season with Saturn and Neptune and Uranus moving into Gemini. The winds of change are here, my friend. And so, how are you going to fly? So thank you for joining me again. If you want to work with me more through the new year, please head on over to all my offers on my website at starpowered.com. Bye for now.
As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.